My name is Jun Natsuda, and I'm about to let someone delete a part of my soul. They don't call it that, of course. The brochures are glossy, filled with smiling, confident faces in soothing blue fonts. It's psychically alignment, a simple, outpatient procedure to correct the personality flaws that hold you back. In a world that runs on optimized minds and curated emotions, my anxiety isn't just a quirk, it's a bug in the code, a critical error that makes me incompatible with the system. I'm an artist, or I would be if anyone ever saw my work. My small, quiet apartment is a graveyard of canvases, stacked 3 deep against the walls with their faces turned inward like they're ashamed. They're filled with everything I can't say, every feeling that gets stuck in my throat and chokes me. Great swirling vortexes of color and shadow that are more honest than any word I've ever spoken. I make a living as a freelance digital illustrator, clean, sterile work for corporate clients who want logos without soul. It pays the bills, and more importantly, it allows me to stay inside. My empathy has always been my compass and my curse. I feel everything so deeply, but the fear of judgment, of saying the wrong thing, of taking up too much space paralyzes me. So I stay here in my quiet little box, painting worlds no one will ever visit. That's why I made the appointment. I want to be the person who can walk into a gallery, look the owner in the eye, and show them my work. The person who can hold a conversation without mapping every possible negative outcome in my head. I want to be fixed. I want to be perfect. The clinic promises to snip the tangled wires of my anxiety, to smooth out the glitches. They promise a life without fear. It's everything I've ever wanted. So why does it feel like I'm walking to my own execution? It wasn't just about the art, or the fear of ordering coffee, or the way my heart hammers against my ribs when the phone rings. It started with a specific moment of failure, a memory that's been corroding me from the inside out for the last 3 years. Her name was Emmy. She had this laugh that could cut through the thickest silence. We were in a small, crowded cafe, the air thick with the smell of burnt sugar and coffee beans. She was telling me about her dream of opening a small bookstore, her eyes bright with a passion I'd only ever felt in front of a blank canvas. Then, a man at the table next to us, loud and obnoxious in a crisp business suit, started in on her. Not about anything important, he just didn't like the sound of her laugh. His words were vile, cutting, designed to humiliate her, to make her small. I watched the light in her eyes dim. I saw her shrink into herself, her shoulders hunching, her hands hiding in her lap. And I did nothing. Every instinct screamed at me to speak, to stand up, to say anything, but my throat closed up, my blood turned to ice, and my body felt like it was encased in concrete. The words were there, right behind my teeth, but the anxiety was a physical gag holding them down. I just sat there, frozen, my hands trembling under the table, a silent, useless witness to her pain. He eventually got bored and left. The silence he left behind was 10 times louder than his yelling. Emmy didn't look at me, not with anger, but with a quiet, devastating disappointment that I still see in my nightmares. We never really recovered from that silence. That's the ghost that haunts me. That's the man I'm trying to kill. Not the loudmouth in the cafe, but the coward who sat by and let it happen. I'm willing to let a surgeon into my mind to carve him out. That's my goal, to become the man who would have spoken up, even if it means becoming a perfect, empty void.
The clinic was exactly as sterile and soothing as the brochure promised. The walls were a soft, matte white, the air smelled faintly of lavender, and the only sound was the gentle, rhythmic hum of unseen machines. The technician, A man named Alan, with a practiced, sterile smile and impossibly perfect teeth, led me to a reclining chair that molded itself to my body. He was calm, efficient, his movements economical. He was the kind of person I wanted to be. "Just a simple recalibration, John," he said, his voice a smooth, reassuring baritone as he applied a cool gel to my temples. "Think of it as defragmenting a hard drive. We're just cleaning up the corrupted files, the inefficient code, so your core programming can run at optimal efficiency." The procedure itself was nothing. A soft hum and a light show behind my closed eyelids, like a kaleidoscope of churning chaotic static. I felt this strange sense of detachment, as if I were watching a movie of my own life. All the messy, painful scenes being fast-forwarded and blurred into an abstract smear of color. Then, just as quickly, it was over. Alan's perfect smile was the first thing I saw. "All done," he said. "You'll feel the full effects in a day or two. Welcome to your optimized life." He was right. The next morning, I woke up and the familiar leaden knot of dread in my stomach was just gone. I lay in bed for a full 10 minutes, probing for it, like a tongue searching for a missing tooth. There was nothing. I walked outside into the noise and the crowds of the city and felt no tightness in my chest, no urge to shrink away. I ordered a coffee from a real person at a busy cafe, and my voice didn't shake. I even made eye contact. It worked. The crippling weight was lifted. It was the first day of my new, perfect life. The first crack in that perfection appeared 3 days later. I decided it was time. Time to face the art. I walked into my studio bedroom and turned one of my old canvases around, one I'd painted in a fit of despair a year ago after a particularly bad panic attack. It was a mess of jagged reds and deep drowning blues, a self-portrait of my own misery. I'd always felt a painful connection to it, a secret shame and pride in its raw, unfiltered honesty. But looking at it now, I felt nothing. No, that's not right. I felt a faint, clinical revulsion, the same way you'd look at a poorly rendered corporate logo. The colors were unbalanced, the composition was flawed and inefficient. I saw the imperfection, the emotional messiness of it, and my first thought was a cold, simple one: it should be erased. That night, things got stranger. I found myself in the kitchen at 3 a.m., methodically eating raw onions, slice by slice, like an apple. I'd always hated onions. The acrid taste, the sharp burn, but the craving was a physical, undeniable pull. Then I started tearing at the collar of my shirt, a perfectly tailored, expensive shirt I'd bought for my new life. The crisp stitching felt abrasive against my skin, the crisp fabric an intolerable irritant. I ripped it from my shoulder with a sense of profound, inexplicable relief. I stood there, in my ruined shirt, the sharp, alien taste of onion on my tongue, and felt the second emotion since the surgery: confusion. A cold, quiet dread was beginning to seep back in, but it wasn't the old, familiar anxiety. This was something else, something new, something wrong.
The real terror came the next morning. I was in the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. When I looked up into the mirror, for a split second, the reflection wasn't me. The face was mine, the features were mine, but the eyes were hollow, utterly, terrifyingly vacant, like two polished black stones. There was no one home. As I stared, paralyzed by a cold that had nothing to do with the water, my reflection's head tilted a fraction of a second before mine did. It was a tiny, impossible lag, a glitch in the very fabric of my reality. Then the world behind my eyes fractured. The memory of Emmy in the cafe flashed in my mind, but it was corrupted. Her vibrant red scarf was a dull, washed-out gray.
The warm, ambient chatter of the cafe was gone, replaced by a low, metallic drone. The sharp, insulting words of the man at the next table were muted, stripped of their venom, reduced to a neutral string of data. I watched, a helpless passenger in my own head, as the memory was actively being scrubbed of all emotion, desaturated and flattened until it was just a file. I stumbled back from the sink, gasping for air, my heart hammering against my ribs. The ghost I wanted to kill wasn't just dead. His entire existence, the reason for the surgery, was being systematically wiped from my memory banks. I tried to tell myself it was a side effect, an adjustment period. That's what the clinic's automated message said when I called. Its voice a soothing, synthesized female alto. The Linder Industries thanks you for your commitment to a better you. Psychological fluctuations are a normal part of the optimization process. Please remain calm. Your system will stabilize shortly. Optimization. The word felt like a shard of ice in my gut. I decided to fight it. To prove I was still in there, the real me, the messy, anxious artist, I went to my studio. I would paint. I would force the emotion back onto the canvas. I squeezed tubes of color onto my palette. Crimson, ultramarine, cadmium yellow, the familiar oily smells doing nothing to comfort me. I picked up a brush, but my hand felt like it belonged to a stranger. It moved with a mechanical, flawless precision I'd never possessed, stroking the canvas with perfect, soulless lines. I was trying to paint a storm, but my hand was drawing a perfect architectural blueprint. And then it happened. My vision dissolved. The studio, the canvas, my own hand, it all vanished, replaced by the same chaotic, swirling static from the procedure. But this time, I was awake. This time, I could see it clearly. It wasn't just static, it was a user interface. My own consciousness, my memories and feelings were laid out before me like lines of code on a screen. I saw file names scrolling past at an impossible speed. Fear response public speaking, empathy subroutine 4C, childhood fear dark, adolescent awkwardness O1B, grief memory ME. And beside each one, a single horrifying word flashed in red: deleting. A progress bar pulsed in the corner of my vision, stark white against the black void. Cleanup in progress, removing anomalous emotional data, 78% complete. I tried to scream, but I had no mouth. I tried to run, but I had no body. I was nothing but a ghost in my own machine, a terrified witness to my own erasure. The anomalous edit wasn't something that had happened to me. It was happening now. It was a rogue program running in my head, cleaning up the last vestiges of my flawed humanity, and it was still working on its masterpiece, a perfect empty void.
The sewer was a sanctuary. The oppressive sterility of the world above was replaced by a symphony of decay. The air was thick with the smell of waste and damp earth, a rich, organic stench that felt more honest than any disinfectant. Slimy water flowed through the tunnels, and the only light came from grates far above, casting long, distorted shadows. Here, everything was imperfect. Everything was flawed. And for the first time in days, I felt safe. I felt like I was home. I stumbled through the darkness for what felt like hours, my torn clothes catching on pipes, my bare feet slipping on the slick, uneven ground. Eventually, I came to a large, cavernous junction where several tunnels converged. A large pool of stagnant black water had formed in the center, and a single beam of moonlight lanced down from a grate directly above, illuminating it like a spotlight on a stage. Exhausted, I knelt at its edge to drink, the foul taste a welcome shock to my system. And then I saw my reflection. The face staring back at me from the oily surface of the water was perfect. Unblemished skin, clear eyes, a calm, neutral expression. It was the face of a stranger. There were no lines of worry, no shadows of anxiety, no trace of the man who had spent 30 years hiding from the world. This face wasn't hiding. It had nothing to hide. It was a beautiful, flawless mask. And I hated it with the purity that eclipsed every other feeling I'd ever had. This face was the prison. This body was the cage that held the last of my flawed self. This perfect flesh was the alien I had to remove. My eyes darted around the chamber, and I saw it. A piece of a broken bottle, its edge jagged and sharp, glinting in the moonlight. I picked it up, the glass cold and hard in my hand. My reflection did the same. I looked into its placid, empty eyes. "You are not me," I thought, the words a silent scream in the void of my mind. Then I brought the shard to my cheek. The alien in the water didn't flinch. I pressed down. The first cut was a revelation. A line of fire bloomed across my skin, followed by a surge of beautiful, vibrant red. The pain was an anchor, a confirmation that I was still here. It was a flaw, a wonderful, messy human flaw. I slashed again and again. I wasn't trying to die. I was trying to live. I was an artist carving his true self out of a flawless block of marble. I tore at the perfect skin, turning its pristine cage into a canvas of my last desperate masterpiece. The world came back in flashes of white. White walls, white sheets. The perfect work of medical machines healed my physical wounds into a network of pale, clean scars. But my mind was shattered. Or perhaps it was finally complete. The anomalous set had finished its work. The last 1% of my flawed, chaotic self had been deleted during that final, illogical act of rebellion. I am, in a way, what I always wanted to be. The anxiety is gone. The fear is a concept I can access, like a dictionary definition, but not a feeling I can experience. I am confident. I am detached. I am utterly, irrevocably empty. I'm optimized. They brought me back to my apartment. The window is a seamless sheet of perfect glass. The canvases are still here. I stand before one of them now, the one I painted after Emmy. A maelstrom of angry reds and drowning blues. A self-portrait of a heartbreaking. I analyze its composition. The color theory is flawed. The brushwork is erratic and inefficient. Logically, it is a failure. And yet, a single drop of liquid traces a path from the corner of my eye down my perfectly sculpted cheek over a pale, thin scar. It is not sadness. Sadness is a file I no longer have access to. The doctors explained it. It's an involuntary physiological response. A glitch. The ghost of a feeling from a man who is no longer here. The memory of the man who froze in that cafe is gone, but the man he became stands here now. He would speak up, I think. He would confront the aggressor, not out of empathy, but because it would be the most efficient way to resolve the social disruption. He would be perfect, and he would be a complete stranger.
Thank you so much for watching or listening. Like and subscribe for more nightmares. Your support keeps the darkness from consuming this channel, so we can face the next terrifying story together. Don't be left in the dark.